All right, how you doing? This is Chris Tiller with Russ Lyon Sotheby's. I've been having a very common theme question lately. Wanted to give a quick video update on where my thoughts are. So, forbearance. If you're not familiar with what's going on, the CARES Act included a provision that allowed homeowners with their an application toward their mortgage company to stop making mortgage payments for a certain period of time. We're seeing 3 months for sure, some go to 6, 9, and then there's extension opportunities in between there, depending on the circumstance and the mortgage company. But the CARES Act did allow for this and is offering benefit package for it. So good or bad, doesn't really matter your opinion, but we're gonna go through why in this conversation, what I'm normally hearing is that, well, once these forbearances come to fruition and the CARES Act stopped, we're gonna get a flood of foreclosures and the market will be flooded with inventory and this will create our next crash. I do not believe that, and there's a bunch of different reasons why. We're going to go through that today. The forbearance update, so again, this is April of 2021. I like to timestamp this so I can kind of look back. 1, the number of people in forbearance right now is holding steady. I won't bore you with the details because it's on a national level. It's difficult to get stats on a state and county level, but right now, the number of people in forbearance, if they all liquidated, every single person in forbearance currently, it is about 6 months worth of inventory that would hit the market immediately. So that sounds like a lot. However, in Maricopa County and in specific areas like Gilbert and Chandler, our inventory is sitting at below 1 month. We're sitting at a week, 2 weeks of inventory max. If we saw a flood of 6 months of inventory, that would not bring us back to a neutral market. It would still be a seller's market. We normally sit anywhere between 7 to 9 months of opportunity for buyers to take a look at. And so any type of a 6-month flooded inventory, again, would not create a huge downwind fall for us in Gilbert Chandler. This is unique because, again, I can't pull out specific numbers for regions. So is it a 12-month inventory in forbearance that is in Maricopa County, or is it 1 month? I don't know, but on the national level, it's a 6-month inventory currently. So even if you play with these numbers up or down, and considering the fact that we have less than a month of inventory right now in Maricopa County, if you flooded the market with 6 months of inventory, it wouldn't have the impact that I think people would be predicting. Now, with that being said, why I don't believe any this moving forward, the only other thing I will point out to you is the CFPB has not yet passed, but they are pushing for a complete forbearance extension through the end of 2021, which means this conversation wouldn't even be valid for another 6 to 9 months at the earliest. Again, hasn't passed yet, but I certainly expect it to, given the circumstance of the current market. Appreciation. So now we're going to kind of get into why, even if this did happen, why the impact of it wouldn't be as big as what I think people is. So like I said, if there's this, if everyone hit the market at the same time, why that's probably not going to happen. One is appreciation. So you don't foreclose on a house that you have equity in. So let's say you have $200,000 in equity because you bought the house 5 years ago, you haven't touched it, and you've just been making your payments, but you've realized this unbelievable appreciation in the Southeast Valley over the last 2-3 years, you have a large amount of equity. So let's say they start the foreclosure process or give you a letter that you need to be made current, you don't have the cash, or you still don't have your job, whatever the circumstance is, you put a for sale sign in your front yard, and because of the appreciation, you're going to walk away with a substantial amount of money. There you have a couple options. You can rent, you can turn around and purchase again, but either way, you're liquidating, and you aren't necessarily in a circumstance where you aren't going to be homeless. So appreciation has a huge impact on what forbearance might look like if all of these homes hit the market. Short sales. So the last crash, people get confused between a foreclosure and a short sale. So a foreclosure is the bank takes physical ownership of the house back from the current owner. A short sale is you were negotiating between someone who wants to buy your house, you have a contract and a willing buyer, with the bank to take less than what is owed on the property. They're selling it short of what is owed. So, 1, and if a short sale comes to fruition, it means that the house is worth less than what you owe, which again is difficult to see with appreciation rates the way that they are, but if that's the case. The reason why foreclosures won't be a thing, in my opinion, is because 1, appreciation. But again, short sales weren't a process that was set in stone back in the previous crash. So if you were delinquent, all they had was the foreclosure process. They didn't quite understand what a short sale was yet. It took banks, mortgage companies, a long time to work through this process of a short sale. I processed a ton of them, and it was a huge, huge hassle for a long time. The big banks took a long time to get it. The small banks were going bankrupt and didn't care. So there was a big issue. But having this process now essentially dialed in. A lot of the people that have been around a long time and remember short sales, we still have all the paperwork, we have all the contacts within the title companies. Most of the banks have everything lined up and ready to go. That system from a legality standpoint is set in stone. This would be very easy to turn back on and process short sales, which is much better than foreclosures. You have a ready and willing buyer, an owner who's sitting in the house and maintaining the property just so it doesn't become vacant and dilapidated. This also helps banks. They don't want to be in the business of owning property and real estate. They don't want to foreclose on a house. They're not in the business to own properties and take them back. They have to pay the taxes, the insurance, maintain the property. Somebody has to go by and mow the grass, clean the house, and again, check on it, make any repairs. That's not what a bank does. They want to lend money and they want to get rid of it. So if they can process short sales, they will. Interest rates, obviously they are maintaining a low circumstance. So if, let's say you had not refinanced and you were in a forbearance situation, but you got your job back, the income came back, etc. The interest rates that we're seeing today, if somebody they were in forbearance, but they couldn't catch up financially because they don't have the cash sitting in a bank account because they have been unemployed or they've lost hours at work and they've been kind of eating through their savings, and they can't catch back up if there's a huge bill due. So let's say you don't make a payment for 9 months, the bank mails you the bill, you don't have the cash, what do you do? So if you have the appreciation that justifies your value and you have your job back, you simply refinance. The irony is, in the refinance process, if you haven't refinanced or you didn't purchase in the last 2 or 3 years, there's a very good chance your interest rate is going to go down. And so when you do refinance, your payment's actually going to be less than what it was when you were in forbearance. So you're actually in a better position over time, predicated obviously on how long you've owned the house, when you've been there, etc. But so all of those kind of together lead me to believe that the forbearance update, even in a worst case scenario, is going to be a blip on the radar. But with everything else included, we may not even notice its impact at all. And I know buyers in the market right now would just scream to have more opportunity to purchase, and investors are coming out of the woodwork and would gladly scoop up any of these that come hit the market. So I don't think it's going to be an issue at all moving forward in the next year or two. The other issue I want to talk about is forbearance from a qualification standpoint. So this is an interesting one. I was concerned or confused on what this meant. So from contacting your bank, what does it look like to actually get forbearance on your mortgage? And I went through this process just for my own kind of edification on what it was going to look like if I qualified. And so I printed out actually what it was. So I copied and pasted. So my mortgage company asked you 5 questions, drop down box, pretty non-specific answers, I would say. There was only 2 or 3 options for each one, yes or no, for instance. But there was no physical requirement for proof of, decrease in income, unemployment benefits, anything that would lead you to believe that you actually have to provide proof that you're in some form of a circumstance that leads you not to pay for it. It was just basically trust. Here were the 5 questions. Are you unable to make your mortgage payment due to impact of COVID? Are you currently working with us to refinance or buy a new home? Would you like to proceed with your forbearance and cancel your loan that's in process? Has COVID-19 affected your ability to make payments? How would you describe your home? And that was primary residence or second home. And is anyone currently living in the home? Is it vacant, a second home, rental property, etc.? So I filled this out for a couple of different circumstances. I filled it out for a rental property that I own and put in there that it's vacant, it's a rental property, and every single one that I picked as far as different circumstance qualified me for a forbearance, despite the fact that I have not had a job loss or a decrease in income. So it's really interesting to see of this 6 months of inventory, how many people out of curiosity filled it out and said, interesting, I don't have to make a payment for 6 months? Perfect, let's do that, cash flow, and deal with it on the back end. So whatever it is they were going to do, pay off other high interest debt, deal with it on the back end, planning on refinancing later on, whatever the reasoning was or justification. It would be interesting to see how many people took advantage of essentially the CARES Act without having a true hardship. The other issue is it didn't matter if it was primary residence or rental property. I know rental property owners who filled this out and are cash flowing their rental property with no mortgage payment, and their renter is current on rent. They are cash flowing that rental property without making a mortgage payment. So how much of this is going on, I don't know. It is certainly a percentage that is mentionable. And with all of these factors combined, I really don't see the forbearance issue becoming any major impact, specifically in Arizona, but even on a national level, it's going to be very difficult to see this having any type of a drastic effect that can't get absorbed very quickly by current market conditions. So that's my forbearance update for April of 2021, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.